scary moment for Cruz Pedregon in the Funny Car Finals Sunday at Memphis. His car burst in the flames during the run against John Force. Pedregon was airlifted to the Regional Medical Center in Memphis. Luckily, he suffered only a second-degree burn on his right index finger and was released from the hospital. Hello, everyone. I'm John Kernan. Benny Parsons is back from Sears Point. We'll talk to him in just a minute. Ridley Motorsports says it appears as if Kevin LePage is headed to Winston Cup next year. So the team surprised LePage on Monday by replacing him with Kevin Schwantz in the number 88 car on the Busch Series. LePage made his Winston Cup debut in the Pile Night sponsored number 91 car Sunday at Charlotte. He'll drive that car again this weekend at Talladega, but that ride is simply on a week-to-week basis. LePage says he doesn't have anything concrete for next season. While LePage's immediate future is somewhat in doubt, Bobby Labonte's appears to be headed back to the top. Bill Weber says Labonte's almost dominating run at Charlotte has pumped up the team.
For 96 of the first 100 laps on Sunday afternoon at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, it looked like Bobby Labonte was taking the interstate to victory lane, in more ways than one. Labonte sped through traffic like a tourist heading for the beach, passing everybody on the road, stopping only briefly for fuel, then jumping back in the gas and continuing the trip.
Car was probably, that's as good as, you know, that's a brand new car, and it's only had one tire test on it. Came here and sat on the outside pole, and it was extremely fast.
Labonte's powerful Pontiac looked perfect. Of course, most drivers didn't get a very good look at it. Labonte roared by too fast. And while he was cruising, he was spoiling the Sunday drive for a lot of people, carving cars off the lead lap at a blinding pace. The fast lane had as few as 9 cars on the same lap with the leader.
It was awesome all day. It just might be a little bit tight, a little bit loose, and wouldn't vary a whole lot, and just a matter of just driving it like you know, had to adjust for a little bit, adapt for it, but that was about it.
But fate ruined Labonte's vacation plans. His car was one of several sent spinning when fluid was poured onto the track on lap 103.
Fortunately, we didn't get tore up. I mean, it could have easily been disaster, you know, and fortunately, I think we were one of the ones that might have spun out and didn't really get nothing tore up.
The air dam got folded up under the front end, and we were able to get it back out fairly close to where it was, so it really didn't hurt the car that much aerodynamically handling. You know, we were able to come back up through the field. The car was still good and strong. We just didn't have track position, had to work our way back to the front.
For the next 130 laps, Mark Martin, Dale Jarrett, Jeff Burton, and some guy named Earnhardt shared the lead. Even Johnny Benson and Steve Grissom both led 2 laps before Labonte found his way back to the front on lap 232 and led for 45 laps.
Okay, Robert, everybody fitted. You are the leader, about 101 laps to go.
But while Labonte looked strong, his muscle was fading.
They give it up for about 75 laps now, a little bit at a time.
F4.
Sounds like it's running on 7 cylinders, like I lost a header or something.
After we had gotten to the front, Bobby had radioed in that the motor seemed to be something going wrong with it. Was missing a little bit, but we still were running well with it.
At some point during the race, Labonte had indeed cracked a cylinder head, damaging a piston and fouling 2 spark plugs. Still, for most of the race, Labonte appeared to have the power and the poise to fight his way into the lead. Late in the race, Labonte even switched ignition boxes, hoping maybe that would help his sputtering power problem. It did not.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. You never can tell about these things. I mean, just because, I mean, I've seen a lot of cars lead the race early, dominate, and something happened to them. You know, you got to be around at the end. That's what we're all here for, is to run that 500th mile. And, you know, that's, unfortunately, we were just second best today.
You know, ran as hard as we could all day. I mean, that's all you do. At the beginning, I ran as hard as I could, and at the end, I ran as hard as I could and just came up a little short.
Jarrett's Quality Care Ford forced its way in the front for the final time on lap 277. He was a contender all day. He led the rest of the laps. He led a total of 85 laps. He led the last lap for the 6th time this season.
It's been a great year, just tremendous. The car just kept getting better and better. Todd and the guys made all the right changes, and it's just tremendous. It was like the track kind of came to us with the changes that we were making, and the car was just awesome there at the end. I was able to get a pretty good lead and just kind of cruise from there, and it was just unbelievable.
It has been a great season so far for Dale Jarrett, but he does trail Jeff Gordon by 197 points in the chase for the NASCAR Winston Cup Championship. Benny Parsons is with us on Monday, and BP, what does this tell you?
There it's on the very bottom, 31st or worse. Jarrett has 4, Gordon has 2, and that's about 150 points. What did you see? His 197 back? Wouldn't he love to be 47 points back going into the final races of the season?
Well, Benny, thanks a lot for hopping on that plane and getting out here and checking things out, because I got to have Benny to explain this. Now, this is what? A quarter of a spring rubber that fell out of Dale Jarrett's car next to last pit stop. How big a change?
I read about that in the newspaper this morning, that they found it laying on the racetrack, on the pit road. This is inserted in the spring. This is a this is a quarter, or about an eighth, and a full rubber goes in the spring. As the spring compresses, this goes between the coil so it doesn't compress as much. It strengthens that spring. If you put it in the left front where this rubber was located, if you put this in, it would make the car looser. It would put more weight on the left front and right rear and make the car a little bit looser. It fell out, which put more weight on the right front, left rear, and made the car just a little bit tighter. Just enough for Dale Jarrett to win the race.
You know, they did not tell Dale Jarrett that thing came out until after the race was over. If you'd been driving that car, what would you have said to him?
I said, wow, that set of tires really were good. And that's probably exactly what Dale Jarrett thought. Man, that set of tires hooked up really good.
Well, he looked great in the end of the race. Bobby Labonte, the first part of the race, and even chasing down there at the end to catch DJ and finish second. He looked pretty good, but cracked cylinder head, it had to cost him some horsepower. How in the world was he able to finish second?
Well, that's because he really had a great race car. As obviously did, because we saw it the first 100 laps or so just driving away. But you're right, he did lose some power. And they tell me on the radio, he told his crew when it happened, I did lose a little bit of power. And, you know, another 10, 15 horsepower, maybe he could have chased down Dale Jarrett. You know, it might be Jeff Gordon's year, though, for the points, because you look at what happened at Charlotte. First pit stop, speeding on pit road. He gets a stop-and-go penalty, loses a lap, gets back in the 20-something position, and you think, oh my gosh, he's gonna, you know, Mark's gonna close the gap. But sometimes you just gotta have luck on your side. He did. Crash happened. Caution came out. And won his lap. When Bobby Labonte crashed, and Jeff Burton then inherited the lead, is what I'm told, and then Jeff Gordon got by Burton before they got back, started, finished, and got back in the lap. And when I heard that, I said, the gods are smiling on Jeff Gordon. Could be his year. Still to come, Benny, on RPM tonight. Who said that racing was a gentleman's sport? And we'll talk to BP about the strong showing by the Pontiac team Sunday at Charlotte.
Today's technologically advanced cars brake better than ever before. But it's up to your tires to translate these advances into stopping power on the road. The Firestone FT70C uses Unity technology to help your car stop when the rain starts. So if you're not driving on FT70C tires with Unity, why not? The Firestone FT70C with Unity Ultimate Tire Technology, built to stop in the wet.
Research proves that Purolator's new Pure One is the perfect oil filter, collecting 96% of all contaminants. Pure One has more pleats for superior performance and a silicone anti-drainback valve for additional protection at startup.
And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to tell the difference. Wow. Which of these tires will stop faster? Actually, they stopped about the same. In almost any test you can think of, Toyo tires stand up against the best in the world.
RPM Tonight is being brought to you by EA Sports, makers of NASCAR 98 for Sony PlayStation, Sega Saturn, and your PC.
Mark Martin made up a little ground on Jeff Gordon in the chase for the NASCAR Winston Cup Championship. He now trails Gordon by 125 with 4 events left. Dale Jarrett continues to stand in third, followed by Jeff Burton and Dale Earnhardt. Terry Labonte is next, followed by his brother Bobby, Bill Elliott, Ted Musgrave, and Jeremy Mayfield. Well, Benny Parsons is still here in BP. What'd you think about the Pontiacs on Sunday? 4 top 10s. One of those Pontiacs is going to have to win a race before the year's over.
Well, it sure looks that way. And Bobby Labonte, boy, his Pontiac was so strong. He looked like he was going to lap the field, the entire field, before the race was over, and then the incident.
Yeah, the incident when he spun it around, it kind of messed up the front air dam. Now, Jimmy Mayclar and the crew kind of pulled it back out. It got it close, but whenever it's close, not perfect, what's that do to the car?
Well, it makes the car push. You go in the corner, and with that front air dam, the air forces forces the front end down and makes the car turn and go the other direction. When you lose that downforce and you go in the corner, you turn the steering wheel, you have to wait for just an instant while the car continues to push, and then it will turn, and then you can get back on the accelerator. But that waiting is what kills you. Now, this is an exaggeration, what I've done. Maybe it's only that much, but, folks, that much will get you beat in a race, as Bobby Labonte found out.
So you can't change your line or anything to kind of make up for that push?
Well, sure, you can change your line, but if you're losing that downforce on the nose, it really doesn't matter, because you adjust the car to try to get in the center. If you change your line, now you're going to be too loose getting in or too loose getting off, but you're still going to have the problem in the center of the corner where you really need to turn that car and make it go the other direction.
Now, last week you said that we'd find out into a 40-lap run just how much that additional quarter-inch height on the rear spoiler of the Chevys, if it would make a difference or not. To me, didn't look like it made much difference, did it?
I could see no difference whatsoever. It looked like that the Pontiacs had them covered at one time. It looked like Earnhardt at one point had them covered in the Chevrolet, and then it looked like, again, Dale Jarrett in the end was the convincing victor.
So you're talking Pontiac, Ford, Chevy, 3 makes. Benny, look at this graphic. Playing field looks pretty level, doesn't it?
It really does. And, you know, that's exactly what NASCAR is trying to do by tweaking with these spoilers, is to try to give each brand a chance to win. You know, fans say, well, let the Fords run what they run, let the Pontiacs, let the Chevrolets. But NASCAR tries to make it even so all 3 manufacturers can win.
Benny, look at this. I mean, some great side-by-side racing. I was amazed that different cars took different lines and they were able to stick and race side-by-side.
Well, again, that is the one great thing about Charlotte. Since they've repaved this racetrack the last time, John, the drivers search and hunt for that fast way around the racetrack, for the groove. Watch Jeff Gordon, Dale Jarrett as they go on the outside of the racetrack. And again, that's why experience is so valuable in a NASCAR Winston Cup car. Knowing if you go in the corner on the bottom of the racetrack, the groove where it should be the best, and the car is not up to speed, you got to hunt and search, and then experience becomes so invaluable.
Speaking of experience, one of the most experienced drivers not out there, Darrell Waltrip, missed the race, barring injury situations. First time he failed to qualify for a NASCAR Winston Cup event since his career began. No champions provisional because Terry Labonte had to take that. What do you think about, you know, the 4 provisionals plus the champions? Does that work, or does it need to be improved upon?
Well, I mean, I think it works. Certainly it works. And, you know, Darrell, I feel for you. And, folks, I think we all know how Darrell Waltrip felt, because we've had similar situations happen to us in our life. You know, like our favorite pet passed away or something like that. That's exactly what Darrell Waltrip felt like. I know when I missed a race. My last year, I missed a race. And, folks, it is devastating.
All right, well, you would have thought the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, where Benny was out in California on Sunday, that it was racing on one of those short track bull rings late Sunday afternoon instead of the road course at Sears Point. Following a late restart, Rich Bickle and Boris Said went after each other.
Well, on the restart, we kind of got going up into 2 there, and he must have got underneath me. He must have drove in real hard, and I didn't see him there. And we got collected. We went up off the racetrack. No big deal. We lost a bunch of spots. Went back down to 3, and I was on the inside of him, 3/4 of the way up inside of him, and I thought he knew I was there. He turned left, and I knocked him off the racetrack. And, you know, there's times in your career when you got to run for a championship. And, you know, this is one of our deals. And for what he did, you know, there's a lot of times he's been a weapon on the short tracks, and everybody in this series is giving him a break because he's, you know, he's new at this, and, you know, we give him room. But, you know, today is pretty much uncalled for, and, you know, what can I say?
You know, unfortunately, Rich Bickle, I mean, he's got a big head on his shoulders. He didn't want me to pass him, and he just drilled me, not once but twice. And, you know, that's not right. I mean, I give those guys room every time I'm not running at the front. And, you know, today I had a really fast truck, and, you know, the guy's got a big ego. I thought he was a better driver than that, but unfortunately he isn't. So, you know, what goes around comes around, and, you know, I had a deal to hand back to him.
That deal on the racetrack, that stuff you did when you grew up racing a Saturday night racing, just like I did. I mean, I used to have a hot head like that, but, you know, this is professionalism, and that wasn't very professional.
You know, it's not right. You can't just push me around because I'm a rookie. I mean, I give the good guys room. You know, I treat people how I want to be treated, and, you know, if they treat me different, I'm going to treat them just the way they treat me. And, you know, I don't know why he did that. I mean, all year long we've been running close and never had a problem. And, you know, I had a truck that could have won the race at the end.
You can ask anybody in this garage, Jerry. I haven't run into anybody all year long. Nobody's mad at me. You know, that's what I don't understand. I mean, to do something like that, very childish. I guess I don't want to say anymore.
Wow. What do you think, Benny? I mean, the first 2 incidents to me look like it might be just racing, but then whenever you have Boris Said, like, sit back and wait for Bickle to come back around,
Well, I mean, obviously, that was very uncalled for. And I think that Boris knows that today, that it was very uncalled for. And yes, those first two incidents, I think you can put down as racing contact, because Boris, he did have contact on Bickle. Bickle didn't realize he was there. They came together. And then as they locked tires so they couldn't steer the car. That's why they got off the course. And then they get the trucks going again. And Bickle got underneath Boris' head, same situation. I don't think Boris realized he was there, and boom, he hits him. He goes off the track, and yeah, it was. Man, that was pretty bad.
We might have a feud getting started there. The move also hurts Bickle in the point standings, because I believe he was in front of Jack Sprague at that point, and now he trails Sprague by 77. So that could have cost him the championship, maybe.
Well, he was in front of Sprague on the racetrack. He was still 49 points behind him. He was only going to gain a few points on Sprague, if any. But now he lost instead of gaining. He did lose points.
Well, you can't help but feel sorry for Dave Resendez. He had taken the lead on the 34th lap and appeared headed for victory. But on the 56th of 60 laps, Resendez stuck his truck into the tire barrier.
I screwed up. I just wasn't getting through that mess turns all day. And I finally, all day, after 57 laps, got a good run off the right-hander. And I just got in the gas too hard. And once I crest the hill, unloaded the rear tires, I spun them, and that was it. Away I went. I just hated it. I had a real good horse, and I fell off. So I guess that'll happen once in a while.
I guess it does, but it happens to every race car driver, doesn't it?
Oh, man, I felt so sorry for Dave Resendez, because what he's been through, you know, he really needed that victory. And I really believe, he said he spun the tires, but John, I really believe that he was trying in his mind to thank the people responsible for he was practicing his victory lane speech. He was getting ready to thank people, because he really and truly wanted to thank some people for putting him there. And guess what? Lost his concentration for one corner.
When that happens to a driver, how long does it take to get over something like that?
Well, I mean, I guess he will get over it. I mean, some drivers never get over it, because something incident like that will ruin a career. But hopefully, I think Resendez has enough experience. I think he understands enough, and I think the folks that he's involved with, Tom Gloy, I think they understand that you can do these things. So I think he'll probably be all right about 1999.
All right, Benny, stick around. Coming up next on RPM Tonight, we will look ahead to this weekend's race at Talladega. The NASCAR Winston Cup Series heads to the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway this weekend. Benny, they usually run this race, the Die Hard 500, in the heat of July. It's going to be a lot cooler there this weekend. So what's that going to do for the teams?
Somebody finally used their head, John, running this race in fall rather than the summer. And it's not going to do anything to the teams, because the first race at Talladega is in April, the end of April, early May, which the temperature is about the same as it is now. So all they got to do is look at their notes from April, May, and they should play exactly the same for this time of the year.
So I guess that means that some of the guys to watch are going to be the same guys who finished well out there in April. You got John Andretti, Mark Martin, and Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah. And Earnhardt, don't you watch Earnhardt run now, John? Don't you just think that victory is just somewhere right over there, just over the next hill?
Yeah, I do think so. I saw an interview that Bill Weber did with Dale this weekend, and he said that he and Larry McReynolds, his crew chief, aren't pressuring each other. So they apparently are working really well together right now.
Well, and you know that when they started in, John, that they had to feel like that they had to win the next race. That just to prove that Larry McReynolds was the answer, that Dale Earnhardt could still drive a race car. You just know they wanted to win that race and get that behind them. And they still haven't done that, but finally said, well, okay, it's been 20 or 25 races, let's just relax and do what comes natural. And it looks to me like they're doing a lot better at that than the pressure situation they were under.
Last 3 races, 2 seconds in the 3rd place. Hey, let's talk about that Busch race on Saturday. What'd you think about the finish?
Wow, wasn't that great? I mean, that was unbelievable. And check this out. Mark Martin gets alongside Jimmy Spencer, and he did this 2 or 3 times, but Spencer would not give it up. You thought there he'd back off and let Martin drift up in front of him. He would not give it up. He stayed there and stayed there. And
but you know, Benny, usually situations like that where they get in the corner like that, the guy says, oh, he took the air off my spoiler. One of them crashes. Why'd these guys not crash?
Well, Mark almost did one time. About that point right there one time, he almost did crash, which he fell back about 10 or 15 car lengths. But I think this is the second time he made that run at Jimmy Spencer. But again, it's two veteran race car drivers and two guys that know what they're doing out there running side by side. And it was fun. More fun for Jimmy Spencer than Mark Martin, though.
Yeah, but they both had a good time. I know as fans, we had a good time watching. It was also good to see the young driver, Tony Stewart, finish in the 3rd position. He continues to run that way next year when he's running this circuit full-time. You got a rising star on the horizon, don't you?
Well, I think that we had a rising star on the horizon. Otherwise, Joe Gibbs would not have made it, would not have put it in that NASCAR Busch Grand National car. I think that Tony Stewart obviously has a tremendous amount of talent. And you get to racetracks like Charlotte and Atlanta, I think he will do very, very well. Where he's going to struggle is the short racetracks.
Well, Benny Mathall from Pennsylvania sent this email for you. He wants to know if the plug wires on his car are hard to get off. Why do plug wires seem to come off all the time on race cars?
Well, Matt, you put your spark plugs in the car and you put the wires on there, and they stay on there for 50,000 or 100,000 miles. On a weekend at a racetrack, a NASCAR Winston Cup team, they will have the plug wires off that spark plug 15, 20 times. Almost every time the hood goes up, they're taking the spark plugs out to look at those plugs under a magnifying light to make sure that everything is okay inside the cylinder. And when you take that plug off and on that wire, off and on the spark plug, that snap that snaps on that spark plug, it finally loses some tension, and then the vibration of 9,000 RPMs, they pop off.
But don't forget, if you have a question or a comment for the professor, you can email it to us by visiting the ESPN Net Sports Zone on the internet. The address is ESPN.com. No kidding, 100,000 miles, you're supposed to replace the spark plugs.
Yeah, at least.
No wonder I don't get good gas mileage. Benny, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good week.
Hi, John.
Coming up next on RPM Tonight, you'll get a jolt out of this week's edition of Speed Shots.
When it comes to choosing the right motor oil, let's make something perfectly clear. Introducing 3 new oils from Quaker State, specially formulated for the vehicle you drive. Synthetic blends for hard-working engines and high-horsepower engines. A full synthetic for ultimate engine protection. Extra filtered with patented micro-Q filtration to ensure your oil starts clean for a difference you can see and trust. So when it comes to protecting your vehicle, why take a chance? Quaker State. The choice is clear.
Splitfire spark plugs are performance.
With Splitfire, it's money-back guaranteed performance. And guaranteed performance has made Splitfire a winner around the world. Now we're ready for you with the biggest savings ever. Hurry, this pricing ends soon.
The aluminum in your car radiator is as thin as this sheet, and it's the only thing between you and a breakdown. But Prestone Antifreeze bonds with aluminum, forming a zone of protection against corrosion and temperature extremes. Protect your car in the Prestone zone.
It's not that great. I mean, a 24-hour sports news network. Yeah, sure. Scores, highlights, breaking news. Who cares? Big deal. People act like this is the second coming or something. People say, are you going to be on ESPN News? Nope. No way. Apparently, I don't fit into their little schedule.
I need a new agent.
A dubious distinction for Jeff Bodine. Check out Monday's Fast Fact, and we'll be right back.
This weekend, enough racing to make your head spin. Here's what's up ahead this weekend on ESPN2.
Last week, Bill France was among a group of people who founded the USRRC to unify American road racing. Over the weekend, France revealed that the SCCA would sanction the Rolex 24 next year. Sports Car had sanctioned that event. That has Andy Evans up in arms.
It's totally arbitrary. Clearly, it's his interest to monopolize motorsports. It's going to put road racing in a second position, just like it's been since his dad split SCCA into IMSA in 1969.
Why the change?
Well, we just think it's a smart business decision from the event standpoint, and you know, I'll leave it at that. It's a business decision. Purely and simple, and we're planning on making a change.
I haven't seen collusion like this. I've been on Wall Street for 25 years. This is antitrust, and we'll seek every legal remedy that we can.
Evans says his organization plans to fight back and might run a competing event against the Rolex 24. He hopes to have a plan put together later this week. On Tuesday's show, Tony Stewart will be here to talk about it as he tries to wrap up the IRL Championship. Also, Jan Beekes will be here. We will see you then at 7 Eastern. Good night, everybody.